You've worked with thousands of investors like me. Where do people go wrong when they try to rent property?
Well, through my experience of most of the people who have come to me who have had problems with single-family home property management, is truly ends up being the owner's fault. Now, part of that would be in purchasing the right type of property and making sure that the type of investment they're looking for will really give them the results they're looking for.
So that's number one.
That's
purchasing
number one.
the right
Purchasing
property.
the right property would be probably your number one, and it will cut you out a lot of the problems right off the bat by having the right property, which will attract the right type of tenant for what you want.
What other problems do people have when renting property?
Okay, and the other problems is really involving in the management of the property themselves. Many of the people who have come to me with problems, and again I remark that it's their fault. And it's their fault for a couple reasons. One reason is in the qualification of the tenant. That because this is my property, or because you own this property, Gene, and you've decided to pick out the colors of carpet and the color of paint, and maybe you built that gazebo over the weekend with your son, then your house must be worth much more than anybody else's house on the block. So if your neighbor across the street, Bob's house, is renting for $1,250 a month, then the conclusion, of course, is your house must be worth $1,500, $1,600 a month.
Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm the investor. I'm comfortable with the necessary form. But the tenant is coming up with items within the 48-hour timeline that need to be addressed. What legal issues are there?
That's the reason for the form discussed. The comment the gentleman made about the blinds should have been negotiated prior to. And the answer is very simple. That if you wanted it done, you should have negotiated. Now, if there is a leaky faucet or a toilet that runs, you could be hard about it, and you can say, well, the deal's the deal. You moved in, it wasn't there, now you have to take care of it. But the way we start this relationship is going to be very important. Now, of course, you're underlining, you're worried about, if I give him this, is it ever going to stop? Okay? But you have to be very careful that a repair does not turn into damage. So we do believe that your tenant should be responsible for some of the maintenance to this property. Okay? You're responsible for wear and tear. And that is a debate, what is wear and tear, what is maintenance. Our belief is your tenant is responsible for repairs around this house that you and I should be able to do ourselves, Gene, with a screwdriver, a pair of pliers, a plumbing wrench, a leaky faucet. You broke the window. You chewed up the sprinkler heads with your lawnmower, tightened up the doorknob, putting the sliding glass screen door back on, the closet door back on, changing a flapper in your toilet, which is maintenance, not wear and tear. And I believe your tenant should be responsible. But not everybody's capable of doing that type of repair. So if your tenant is not able to do that repair and they call my office, Gene, we will try to pre-qualify that over the phone, because of course part of my job is to be knowledgeable enough not to send people out there to do stupid stuff. Stupid is lighting pilot lights, flipping a circuit breaker button, pulling spoons and rags out of garbage disposals, and not knowing that Ninja Turtles don't live in sewers. Okay? Part of my job is to do that. But if the tenant's not capable, I would prefer that we send out a maintenance man. Now, my contract has written a $65 deductible. So if it's a simple broken sprinkler head and it's only $25, your tenant will be billed $25. Okay? But if we replace the insides to the toilet, a new fluid master, and let's say it's $85, then your tenant will only be billed for the first $65. The incentive is trying to get the tenant to take care of these things himself. That's what we would want. But I also don't want to get in a battle over that small repair, and now a $65 repair is $800 in damage. So my rule is fix first, fight later. When we send the tenant the bill, the tenant may get mad. He may say, well, nobody told me this was in the contract, even though he's supposed to have read the contract. But nobody told me this, and I think it's unfair. Well, my people are told not to argue. Okay? They're told to tell the basic truth that, well, if you disagree with this, Gene, then the best thing you do is go ahead and write me a letter stating your case, and I will make sure the owner will get that letter. Then we will call you up. They ask us to call you, we'll call you, and we'll discuss the situation. If you're adamant this is the contract, they have to pay it, they have to pay it. Some owners will negotiate and go 50-50. Okay? But typically, if the tenant says, well, I'm not going to pay it, I have remedies that I can do to collect it. For instance, my lease states that all late fees, attorney's fees, notice fees, repair bills, utility bills, guardian bills, HOA fines, just about everything you can think of is converted into rent after 35 days past due. And I could send your tenant, what we prefer to do is send them a letter and says, assume you didn't get the first bill.
How can we avoid some problems before signing the lease?
Sure. Well, Gene, one of the ways that, for instance, you can do is by thinking ahead. Planning for the worst to happen will usually give you the ability to avoid it from happening. For instance, in our own company, we have basically found that the average person is an extremely nice person. 80% of the people out there right now, Gene, are wonderful, wonderful, normal people. They're typically buyers who are in transition. And then it's the 20% I have to watch out for. And most of those people are extremely nice people, and then they move in. And that's typically where the demands start. So to try to curb some of these demands is one of the tricks we have used. And one of the tricks would be this. Attached to the credit application to rent this piece of property is a form that says that prior to coming here today to rent this property, I have physically inspected this property. And if there's things I think need to be done, now's the time to negotiate.
So you're handling a complaint. How do you handle complaints without making them worse?
Well, probably most complaints that get out of hand are based on miscommunication, misunderstanding, a lack of caring, a lack of the ability to listen. Sometimes people just want to be listened to, and they just want to tell you the story. And that's really all they wanted you to do, was to hear the story and hear the complaint and to have some passion for them. And it's like most things, just because somebody complains to me doesn't mean I have to go out and fix it. But I do have to listen to the complaint. In my own staff, my employees are theoretically not allowed to argue with you. So if you're a tenant calling up with a complaint, typically the response should be something of a version of this is a request beyond my normal policy procedure manual. Let me talk to the owner of the property. Let me talk to the owner of the company. Let me see what I can do for you. And you should do that. A lot of times you call the owner up and they say yes. Sometimes they say no. But at least then you have complied with what they wanted. You listened to the complaint, you repeated the complaint to them so you make sure they understand, and you made an effort to try to do what they asked. It doesn't hurt, it's not that much work, and it's much easier in the long run to just do what you're asked.
You're also using a third party. You look for situations where you use third parties, right?
If especially you are new at this business, and one would be, let's say, a young single mother who inherits the property. Well, most of those people are fairly competent and they're probably tough enough and rough enough they can handle on their own. But if you were to make up this third party, and let's say it's your father or your brother or whoever you want to call your financial mentor, then it is much easier to use the same basic spiel, that this is a request beyond my normal policy procedure manual, but I don't own all the property by myself. So let me call up my father-in-law and discuss this situation to him, and then I will get back to you. The advantage to that trick, especially with my employees, it is not my employee saying no. When you say no, you will get yelled at. Okay? So typically if I listen to your complaint, repeat the complaint, make a genuine effort to try to help you, and then either come back with the no, then the tendency is, well, it's not your fault. You did everything you can, and I'll deal with it. But if possible, try not to be the one that's saying no. If the phone call from the tenant is a request to do something, then you should do what you requested. The tendency for a lot of people, and even my other employees, is to say no. And I don't know who gave them the right to say no or made him the owner of the property. The only person who can really say no is either the owner or the authorized agent for that owner, which is me, because all my employees are agents for the owner. We all work for the owner first. They are employees of me second. So if the request is for new carpet, then you are to listen to the complaint or the request, repeat the request so it's well known, let them know it's a request beyond our normal policy procedure of replacing carpet during the